Welcome to The Road to Success, a podcast dedicated to the small business owners, the entrepreneurs who make up the Landstar network. Those are independent freight agents, owner-operators leased to Landstar, and approved third-party carriers. We know you have 1,000 options, so thank you for listening to The Road to Success. I'm your host, Aaron Peterson, and I am the manager of the Landstar Contractors Advantage Purchasing Program. I am so tired just saying all that, so we call it LCAP for short, or LCAP if you're feeling festive. Essentially, LCAP is our company discount program. That's where you get discounts on fuel and tires and many other things. For this episode, we are talking to one of Landstar's owner-operators about technology. Not just random gadgets and gizmos, but why he finds Landstar's technology to be paramount to running a successful business. And we're even going to take a look back at how things used to be. Not quite all the way back to horses and wooden carts, but how he used to handle business, how he used to find fuel discounts before the app entered his life. Before we do that, be sure to hit subscribe on whatever podcast app you're listening to this on right now. Then you won't miss the very next episode. Got it? Great. Now that we have the essentials, let's get into the interview. We will mention IFTA several times. IFTA is the International Fuel Tax Agreement. It can be pre-selected or not on the fuel app. That's why we bring it up several times. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows what that is before we get into it. With that, like I said earlier, we are talking a little bit about technology, specifically some of the technology that Landstar has available to our owner-operators. The industry as a whole is introducing a wide array of mobile apps for owners, drivers, carriers. Landstar is no different. And in the past 18 months, we have introduced available loads, Landstar Maximizer, Landstar One, all of these for owner-operators. So for this interview, I wanted to dive into the fuel app specifically because a lot of owner-operators save a fortune with it, and I want to demonstrate how they do that and why they do that. So if you're unfamiliar with it, we launched the fuel app as part of Landstar One only a few months back, and already thousands of our owner-operators are using it with fuel searches approaching 150,000 every single day. 150,000! That's so many! And that savings flows directly to the owner-operators hauling that freight. With me, I have Terry Redding, who has been leased to Landstar for going on 5 years, and I'm going to talk to him about how he uses the fuel app and what it's done for his business. But first, how are you, Terry?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing well. You were telling me about driving through Mississippi and how it's 38, you said?
Yeah, 38. Had a far cry better than, I think it was 6 when I got up this morning with a -5 wind chill up in Indiana. So it's an improvement.
If you just keep going, it's going to get sunnier and sunnier.
That's right.
Yeah. One question I always find interesting with anybody I talk to, because everybody has their own story, their own journey, is how you got involved in trucking.
And I started off, gosh, I was married and a woman, and I decided it was the best paying thing out there. It's always been something I wanted to do. I grew up in the Midwest looking at the big trucks and the chrome and the air horns and the murals. And so I think it's a lot of little boys, but mine especially, always a dream to get out there and go. I like to tell everybody I'm a gypsy at heart. I like moving around. I like seeing different places. And so it just fit. When I got out of the service, this was kind of a good second step, be able to move around and stay fluid.
What about it caught your eye? Once you started doing it, what was it that made you stick with it?
I'd like to think I'm a thinker, and I sit behind the wheel. I like being alone. Mm-hmm. I'm a social person, but I also like my alone time, and I can constantly crunch numbers and watch the weather and figure out where I want to go next, what the fuel prices are. I mean, I'm just constantly running numbers and figuring things out. So it kind of feeds both sides of my brain. I like the creative, seeing, God's creation, the landscape, the animals, the wildlife. And then I like the business side and constantly staying plugged in and always looking to try to improve it a little bit more. I've actually started back in 89, 88. And with the exception of 6 or 7 months, I've always been a lease operator or an owner-operator independent. That was kind of my goal from the beginning.
I'm just curious, what's your favorite state to go through? Because you've seen them all, I imagine.
It really kind of depends. If you want to talk about getting out and flying my drone and going hiking, I like Wyoming, Colorado. If I want flat ground, I kind of like going across Louisiana and Alabama. There's a favorite for almost everything, whether it's food or family. I've got family spread out all over California, all over the rest, probably 20 different states. So each one has a favorite for a different reason. I like to go where it pays the best. That's probably the most honest answer these days. Wherever it pays the best.
That's a great answer. How did your journey lead you to Landstar?
I spent the last 9 years as a lease purchase driver, successfully completing a couple of leases. And Michael and Jackie Wallace were friends of mine, and they were a husband and wife team over at Landstar. We always kind of shared information, and I just finally got to the point where somebody that I had mentored in the lease purchase arena had gotten brave and stepped out into a similar program to Landstar and gave me unfettered access to his load board and to his revenue. And I think at that point, it really clicked. Work smarter, maximize the revenue per mile. Don't get out there and just run the wheels off the truck. And so I started looking and decided what truck I wanted and applied to Landstar, and the rest is kind of history.
And that's a perfect segue, because you have utilized technology to benefit your business quite a bit. And you were actually one of our beta testers, if I remember right, for the fuel app.
That's correct.
You've had more experience with it than just about anybody.
Close to it, yeah.
Before you started using it, though, how did you find fuel discounts before?
There's websites that would allow me to put in my routing, and then I could see the pre-tax or the post-tax fuel price. And then the ComData Fleet Advanced app that we use for our ComData card would show us our Landstar-specific discount cash prices at all the ComData facilities. But it was always up to me to remember or keep my information updated on the different IFTA at every single state and see how that played against one another. You're really only going to do 2 or 3 states at a time if you're driving, because I don't want to be picking up stuff and looking through and trying to thumb through and remember what the different states are. This puts all that information in one place for me.
So tell the people listening how you do it now. How do you use the app to find discounts?
I'm a visual person, so I always use the map format. There's also a list format. I looked at the fuel price minus the IFTA, so that basically it acts as though the IFTA has already been removed from it. So I'm looking at the Landstar discount cash price before IFTA, and that catches my eyes. But what I'm looking for is I use it to compare what I'm going to pay at the pump. Prime example is this last week I came out of Pennsylvania, knew I was going through Ohio, Illinois, Alabama, Mississippi, Indiana, all the way down into Texas. And I needed fuel. Pennsylvania being one of the most expensive states per gallon to travel through, I needed to buy fuel to take care of my credit and take care of my cost in Pennsylvania. And one fuel stop in particular on Interstate 80, Sapp Brothers, was charging me cash price at the pump after the Landstar discount 6 cents more than any other state until I got down to Missouri.
Okay,
well, when Pennsylvania has such a high IFTA tax, that means that any fuel I bought there would cover all of those states. It didn't make sense for me to stop and buy the 75 gallons I needed in Pennsylvania and then stop again and buy 75 gallons in, say, Illinois, when for that nickel, I could cover all those and then run all the way down into Missouri and go ahead and top off for 40 cents less. And my truck gets a high enough fuel mileage that I'll be able to run that little bit of money that I spent on IFTA all the way into Texas, no problem. So it probably saved me about $45 just by not having to stop and nickel and dime it all the way across. And I'll be real honest, when it gets too cold, I try to minimize, how often I have to get out and stand around the truck. I'm already spending 10, 15 minutes every day pre-tripping,
right,
cleaning the windows, all those things. But I also don't want to park the truck with less than half tank of fuel because of the potential for freezing and everything else. So I'm able to go to sleep a little more rested because I'm not worrying about, is it too cold? Did I put enough additive in? All of those things. I've got full tanks, and I was good to go. It's a visual thing. I can compare the fuel price with everything. So the Landstar discount, because that's what I'm paying at the pump, plus the IFTA. But if I think I paid $194 at the Sapp Brothers last week, a couple days ago when I fueled, and it was 189 in Ohio and 189 over in Illinois. But it was 70, I think it's 74 cents, whatever the current Pennsylvania is, compared to, 36 and 46. So I was grabbing a lot more value on the IFTA side for only a nickel more.
You bring up a good point, because a lot of owner-operators have confusion over the IFTA tax, and it is available in the app. You can pre-select, you can select or deselect it. You don't have to have it checked. You find that beneficial to you, that you can remove it if you want?
I do. I actually look at it with it unselected, so I see what it is minus the IFTA. And that kind of gives me a ballpark of what I'm looking at, and then I start adding when I go into individual stations, individual states, and you really only have to add it in one station in each state, and you're seeing the comparison, because that comparison is going to stay the same throughout that state as far as the IFTA.
Right. And when you plan your route, do you do it the entirety of the route, or do you actually just go as you get into a state and you realize you need fuel? That's kind of when you get a feel for where you need to stop.
I do try to do the entire route. Sometimes it's 2 routes. In other words, if I'm going into Pennsylvania and I'm going to go 300 miles in through across parts of Pennsylvania, I've got to be able to get back out. Well, unless the fuel prices have been going down, I'm probably, if I've got room in the tank, I'm probably going to buy enough to make it in and back out. Now, if the fuel prices have been going down, then I may only buy enough to cover myself in and whatever running around I'm going to do, assuming that I'm going to buy it for less on the way back out. But if I've already know what my next load is, and all of my miles for the next 1,000 miles or 500 or 700 miles are going to be in a very low IFTA state, then I want to keep my fuel costs down, and IFTA becomes less of a bearing, but I can kind of plan it better by looking at the fuel route, the map, seeing all the different fuel options.
Do you like that you can select the specific vendor if you choose to?
I like options. I always like options. It's not a complicated option, because once I select all, it's all there. Now, if I'm going to run in a certain area for a week or so, maybe I go ahead and select just TA and Petro. I do tend to be a TA and Petro loyal. I tend to get better fuel mileage, or at least in my mind, in my pen and paper, I do. So I get better mileage on their fuel, plus the perks, the showers, everything else. But I like the fact that when I'm looking on the map, I can see the emblem of the national branded station, the Flying J, the Loves, so I don't have to open it up to see what it is.
Because in your mind, you already have ones that you prefer.
I do prefer, but I'm still going to do it for less, so that's why I don't only select those, because I do look at all the prices.
Excellent.
And if there's a substantial difference, then I've still got to weigh the risk and reward.
Well, you are using that app correctly. That's what it was intended for. Absolutely. Can you tell me what the difference was for you? Because you're one of the first people to ever use this app, between how you used to find fuel and how you find it now. Do you find it much more beneficial?
Half-hour savings a day.
Half hour?
I don't really change what I'm doing. It just makes life a whole lot easier. It's at my fingertips. Once I'm booked on a load, when I'm sitting in the back, I can just kind of flip through and get an idea of where I'm going to fuel. And then I look at it every day, because fuel prices do change.
Mm-hmm.
So it hasn't really changed my business side as much as just freed up another half hour to work on something else.
That's fantastic.
Or not work.
That's even more fantastic, right?
Yeah, it depends on who you ask.
So the fuel app gets a thumbs up from Teddy then?
It does. There's a few things that we'll continue to try to work on, and I'd love to see maybe a routing option.
Yes, definitely.
But there's a lot of tools out there, and this is one of my favorites when it comes to fuel. The one thing I will point out is it's man-made and it's fallible, so if you see a fuel price that's way out of line, go double-check it against the ComData app. Sometimes it's right, but sometimes it's not. I don't run across many issues, but, in the end, I'm still the one spending the money, so I ought to do the homework.
I'm going to get ready to let you go here in a minute, but any secrets to success for anybody that's new to the app? Any little tips or tricks you would tell them to use?
Use it. Use it daily. Even the guys that are on a dedicated, use it daily, because the fuel prices do change. and you'll never make a dollar without making pennies. So, it's those pennies that add up.
Well, Teddy, I really thank you for coming by and doing this for us. We really appreciate you stopping by.
My pleasure.
And you keep driving safe. Wherever you're going next, make sure you drive safe.
Will do. Trying to stay south, stay warm. Appreciate it, Aaron.
I might meet you up and just ride with you for a while if you don't mind, because it's a little cold where I'm at.
I got the extra bunk. All right, we'll see you guys next time we're in Rockford.
Okay, take care.
All right, bye.
Thanks so much, Terry. Wasn't he a great guy? I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about how you use the Fuel app and how it's been beneficial for your business. But before we move on to our listener feedback for this episode, I just want to take a second and say thank you to all of the owner-operators and drivers out there on our highways this holiday season. Many of you, I know, are sacrificing time with your own families to run your business. And I can't tell you how thankful everyone at Landstar is for doing everything you do every single day. So much, in fact, that if you happen to be a Landstar owner-operator, we have once again partnered with TA Petro to offer a complimentary meal on Christmas Day. We know traveling across the country, trying to make a living and meeting deadlines often affects your personal time, and we wanted you to know how thankful we are for what you do, as well as let you know we're thinking of you as you do it. So if you're a Landstar owner-operator and you haven't yet registered for your complimentary meal this holiday, find more info on Landstar Online or call LCAP or LCAP at 800-531-5227. That's 800-531-5227. Now let's get to some Landstar listener feedback. Recently, we posed this question on Landstar social media. Why did you decide to run your business leased to Landstar? Here's some of your answers. Thomas Seaman, safety before service. That's a motto that I wanted to hitch my wagon to. After 5 years here, I can honestly say that it's not just a cliche. The support network is certainly one of the best in the industry. I talked to other OOs, that's owner-operators, and have heard horror stories. I listen to RBCOs and hear the usual complaints, e-logs, shippers, receivers, parking, but not Landstar. Thanks so much, Thomas. That's absolutely the case. Safety before service. Really appreciate you saying that. And also, whenever anyone uses O/Os, I have a New Kids on the Block flashback. Oh. No? Just me then. Okay. Well, William Nailett has the right stuff because I can really run my business, and if I need help, Landstar is there to help. Not that I need help, but it's nice to have it available to me. We all need a little help sometimes, William, and thank you for saying that. Hill Bonia. I've always worked for someone else my whole life. Always punched a clock. Always made scraps while the people at the top bought yachts. Worked hard for years just to see 10-cent raises. I wanted to own and run my own business on my terms, but never knew where to start. Now I run a business, but I myself could not do it alone. The partnership I have with Landstar gives me the opportunity to grow, to run a business, to learn and grow and build relationships with agents who have the same goal, the same vision. Wow, that's fantastic. I don't really know what more to add to that, but thank you so much. That is a great comment. I love these stories, man. And these stories are always great to read. I've worked at Landstar for a quarter of a century. Let's round down instead of rounding up, but I've worked there for a minute. And I've heard a lot of stories, and I'm always fascinated by owner-operators and what brought them to Landstar, what got them into trucking, what made them want to be part of our organization, and also just be in the truck. Those are always great stories, and I love. Everybody has a different journey. Like we were talking to Terry earlier, and I just love hearing everybody's journey. Larry Long, I brought my fleet here in 2012/2013 for one reason. Landstar is the best example in the entire industry of the true free market. There are no restrictions on what you can accomplish here, and there is truly an equal opportunity for everyone here to amass great wealth and success in their business. Freedom is a word you hear associated a lot with Landstar. However, with that freedom comes responsibility. And that is where people who struggle here usually falter. You, and that's all caps, are the only one who can make you succeed or fail at Landstar. Thank you for creating and preserving this wonderful business model. That's fantastic. And you are right. Freedom is a word you hear a lot. In fact, I think you're going to hear it in the next few comments. Robert John LaRoe, in the tone of Braveheart, freedom! I would attempt a Scottish accent, but I feel like I would offend everybody, really. Sean Hall, the freedom to do what I want when I want. Teresa Morris Robinson, the freedom to run my business my way. And of course, the cash. I love that. Freedom and cash. Those two go right together, hand in hand. And lastly, James Leatherman. I love the flexibility to do what I want when I want to, aka freedom. Thanks so much for the comments, everybody. Really appreciate those. I love hearing stories about what brought you to Landstar and about your experiences with the company and doing what you do every single day. Please don't forget to read Landstar's official magazine, also titled The Road to Success. Follow us on social media and search for #Road to Success for our next question. I think you're seeing a pattern with that Road to Success thing, right? Share your thoughts on this Road to Success, or if you have an interesting story you would like us to share, you can do so by email at roadtosuccess@landstar.com. That's roadtosuccess@landstar.com. Or you can leave a voicemail at 800-577-5227. That's 800-577-5227. And we might just discuss your email or voicemail on an upcoming episode. That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks so much for listening to The Road to Success. More episodes will be coming your way soon, so be sure to hit subscribe so you're the first to get the next episode, as well as find Landstar's social media pages and share this episode with your friends. Please, that's how people find the podcast. We want to get interaction. We want to hear from you to find out, what do you guys want us to talk about? What do you want us to talk to owner-operators about, talk to agents about, talk to carriers about? What information are you looking to hear from us that we can provide on this podcast? We would love to know. Always use the #Road to Success so we can easily find your comments. And please, when you do, tell us where in the country you're listening from. That's something we love to hear. We'd love to know where you're at when you're listening to this podcast. That's it for this episode. Once again, I'm your host, Aaron Peterson, saying thank you. And no matter what end of the trucking business you fall into, whether it be an agent, whether it be an owner-operator, whether it be a carrier, always remember to drive safe. Take care, guys.